Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Capital City Baptist Church. Today's devotional is titled The Door to Salvation or the Door to Destruction. Many years ago in my English class, we read a short story that both fascinated me and at the same time angered me. The story was titled The Lady or the Tiger, and it was about a cruel king who found out that a young courtier and his daughter, the princess, were discovered to be in love. The king had the young courtier arrested and brought into an arena where he would have to choose between two doors. One door would have a beautiful damsel to whom the courtier would marry immediately. The other door would have a hungry tiger that would pounce upon him and devour him. Aside from the king, the princess, who either way would lose her love, also knew which door had the damsel, whom, by the way, she hated, and which door had the tiger. And so when the time came for the young courtier to choose a door, the story reads that he looked to her, the princess, for an indication of which door to choose. The princess signaled for him to choose the door on the right. But just as we are about to learn the fate of the young courtier, of whether what came out, whether it was a damsel or a hungry tiger, the story stops. In other words, it doesn't conclude with a definitive ending. Instead, it leaves the ending up to the reader to guess, if you will, which door the young courtier ended up choosing. History shows that many readers were not amused by the author's bizarre ending and were instead, in some cases, even outraged that he would leave the reader hanging. As the years have passed, many have tried to conclude the story, and others have even gone as far as concluding that the story could be based on probabilities, or in other words, the ending of the story could be based on probability and somehow math. Of course, the story was and still is a famous piece of literature that leaves the reader at the edge of his seat, wondering what will be the outcome. To be sure, the courtier and the princess were in love. The princess loved the courtier and would not want anything to harm him. Right? However, the story was gracious enough to inform us that the princess hated the damsel that would become the courtier's wife if he were to choose that door. The other door would be certain death in the most horrific manner. Either way, the princess would lose the man she loved, and there would be no happily ever after for her. The Bible speaks about a king who gave all of his subjects the right to choose which path to take. But unlike the cruel king of the short story that I shared with you, this king was not and is not driven by greed, anger, or jealousy. This king, the Bible tells us in Matthew 7:13 through 14, states the following: "Enter through the narrowest gate, for the gate is wide, and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it. For the gate is narrow, and the way is constricted that leads to life." And then there's one more part that says this: "And there are few who find it." So now, why the mention of the first king versus the second? Well, first, understand that the first king is leaving the immediate future of the young subject in the hands of fate or chance. He knows which door the young courtier should choose so that he could live. The story depicts a cruel king who enjoys submitting his accused subjects through absolute terror and uncertainty. His motivation is to inflict despair and agony on the accused, and only if he is able to choose the door with the damsel, then his life would be spared. Our King's motivation, on the other hand, was love and love alone. He has not put his subjects through agonizing guessing as to what door to take or path. Instead, he spelled it out as plain and simple as could be. He stated very simply, brothers and sisters, that there are only two paths, one of destruction and one of salvation. One takes you through a false sense of peace and security, and the other one through at times painful terrain. There is no guessing game with God. It's either the narrow path, which is the Lord Jesus Christ, or the wide open path, the world and its philosophies, religions, and ultimately hidden author, the devil, offers. And so, brothers and sisters, let us rejoice in a loving King who did not leave us to our own. Instead, he gave himself for us all because he loved us enough that he was not willing that any should perish but have everlasting life. But make no mistake, there is only one way. Salvation is a gift, but it can be found in only one way, and one way alone. That is Jesus Christ, who said it very clearly. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Would you have a wonderful weekend? I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. May God bless you. Thank you for listening.